Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of ProRevenge. I hope you're all having a nice day. Welcome to the video. If you haven't subscribed yet, please click that red button and make it turn to the, is it grey? Once you're subscribed, I think it is grey, and click the bell icon too, which means that you won't miss out on any videos, because my last video, it got hardly any people watched it out of the subscribers because YouTube is annoying and they don't send out, in your recommended when someone that you subscribe to uploads a video. It's only if you click the bell icon, so please make sure you click the bell icon, and also while you're at it, give a like for the video please, and comment down below something, I don't know. So yeah, let's begin. Better check your facts, because people know people. Had to post this one. It isn't petty, it isn't regular, and it ruined a guy's journalistic career. The internet has evolved quite a lot over the years. Some people may remember Usenet groups. I know I do. Used to have a lot of fun reading them. Kind of similar in a way to today's Reddit in a way. No matter what the subject was, someone would have a Usenet news group for it. But unlike today's Reddit, it was strictly text. You could download images, but they would take forever to download, and could often be across several different messages. Just one of the messages missing, and you wouldn't get the image. Things unimproved, download speed slowly got faster, and then there was IRC that came about. IRC saw the same thing. There was chat room for anything and everything, and if there wasn't, you could clearly create it. If you were to try and watch a video over the internet back then, it could take a couple of hours to download a music video. You get the idea. This is important for the context of the story. Yeah, I can't really imagine what the internet was like, 20 years ago or so. It'd literally be, basically chat rooms and that's it. And, oh no, imagine that many hours just to download probably like a 144p music video or something with awful quality. It's funny how quickly that the internet's evolved and things and technology. I was a writer on a couple of wrestling newsletters during the mid to late 90s. We only published our newsletters online. You could have it emailed to you or go to a website to read it. Think we hosted on GeoCities or Tripod. Both wrestling newspapers were independent of each other. Newsletters, not newspapers. And I used different nicknames on each. One was more a review and preview newsletter, where we would post reviews of the most recent shows/events, talk about current feuds, and talk about what we may think will happen in the next big event. Okay, so far I'm not sure where this story is going, as in where the revenge goes into it, so I've got nothing to say on that side of it, so we'll continue. The other newsletter was a news and rumours letter, with a few fun puzzles competitions thrown in to keep things interesting. At the time, you had a few big name wrestling news and rumours websites and a handful of small ones. I was a writer on one of the small ones. Sometimes we would get news and rumours from the big name websites, giving them credit where appropriate. Sometimes we would hear things from people in the business, everyone had their sources of information, and sometimes we would make an educated guess on possible scenarios based on current trends in the industry. It did get a bit cutthroat at times, with some newsletters claiming that they broke the news first, when it had already been published in other newsletters first. And you would even have some newsletters devote all their time trying to rubbish the other newsletters for publishing false and misleading information. It was rumours. We did not always get it right. Well, that kind of happens today with any big news stories, because of course if you hear something from other people or social media, quite often you're going to search it up on Google, and so of course all these news companies know that, so they try and churn these articles out as quickly as possible, and often they're pretty rubbish, just because they're not putting enough time into them. Through a couple of readers of my first wrestling newspaper, I learned a huge surprise in the works for one organisation, which could potentially lead to something happening at a big event coming up. I won't mention the surprise, but it involved a person from another sport. No wrestling newsletter had reported it, so I included it as a rumour on the second wrestling newspaper. I was instantly rubbished by one of the major wrestling newsletters at the time, publishing a clearly nonsense rumour that would never happen, only for that very same newsletter to publish the exact same rumour 2 or 3 days later. and claimed to be the first one to publish it. This sort of stuff happened all the time. It did not bother me at all. Really? I'd find that pretty annoying. Anyway, I happen to have a few wrestlers who actually read my first newsletter. No big names as such, but a couple of lesser known wrestlers in the big organisations. I knew who they were, but refused to reveal their identities back then, and refused to reveal them now. One of them let me know of an unknown fact from a major match a couple of years earlier. It was to do with an injury that happened during a part of the match. This fact had never been published anywhere else at the time. I mentioned that I wrote for another wrestling newsletter that dealt with news and rumours, and asked if I could repeat the information. The wrestler said, sure, but not to credit him, so I go ahead and publish a rumour. Straight away I had another of the smaller wrestling newsletters saying it was nonsense. They said it was impossible for the match to have continued had the injury happened. They then started a smear campaign on the second newsletter. I was getting spam emails constantly, virus attempts originating from the competition. The competition even went so far as claiming that they had the full story of my wife of 10 years working as a hooker. Don't ask, they were trying to find anything to smear me with. There were more sinister and disgusting stuff, but I won't write it here. Why it got so personal, I do not know. But the funny thing was, at the same time, I was a 22-year-old single university student, and if I had a wife of 10 years who was working as a hooker, would have had to marry her when I was 12. But his smear campaign was working. Our readership dropped nearly 50%. It was time to get some revenge, although I had no idea how far the revenge would end up reaching. Yeah, I mean, come on, you're all adults working in a news reporting industry. Why do you have to go after other people who say certain things? It's just, a bit childish. Firstly, I approached one of the bigger wrestling newsletters. They would often run ads at the bottom of the rear of their newsletters for affiliated newsletters. I organised a new affiliation with them, removing an affiliation they had with the competition. Well guys, comment down below every time I said affiliation then. Small potatoes. I started promoting the second newsletter, heavy on Usenet, in some of the wrestling groups, which ultimately led to an increase in our email subscription base, greater than what it was before his smear campaign. This negated any effect that his smear campaign had, but I was hungry for more. I wanted to shove it right where the sun doesn't shine, so I contacted those wrestlers who read my first newsletter. I explained the situation to them, and they were happy to help out. It took a couple of weeks, but eventually I was able to post a link to a 15-second video, hosted on GeoCity's webpage, as well as on a wrestling Usenet group, where the wrestler at the centre of the injury rumour not only confirmed it, but gave a shout out to my second newsletter. While it validated me and my information, it still didn't shut the other guy up. Finally, a break. While the guy used a second name for his newsletter, he did actually mention his name a couple of times, and where in the US he attended university. Using this information, I was able to get a friend in the US to do some searching for me, attended the very same university, and discovered that the guy had actually completed a journalism degree several years earlier. Further research indicated that he was now working as a reporter for a regional newspaper in the US. His wrestling newsletter must just be a hobby. So I decided to send all of the information I had, his smear campaign, etc., to the newspaper office. I don't know what, if anything, it would do, but it was worth a shot. About a month later, I got an email back from the newspaper thanking me for the information. They discovered that he was using the newspaper system to run the wrestling newsletter, which is against their policy, so they fired him. And because the newsletter was part of a chain of regional newspapers across the country, across the US, he was going to struggle to find another journalism job. The newsletter got shut down as well, because without the newspaper system to run it, the guy had no way of continuing with the newsletter. Wow, okay, so that was pretty good revenge. That's what you get for being, a bit childish and making up these rumours about this other person. So yeah, I think that's actually pretty good revenge. Side note, I ended up finishing with my newsletter not long after anyway. The first newsletter, as I was just a writer for it, I finished up with it when the owner of the newsletter decided to close it down. He didn't have the time to devote to it due to work commitments. The second one, I started off just as a writer/contributor, then took over the competitions, and eventually took over the whole newsletter. Original owner didn't want to do it anymore. But in the end, I was finishing up university, had to move on my career, so I closed it down. So yeah, that was a pretty interesting story. Yeah, I knew media was bad, but I mean, come on, adults just going after other people because they said certain things just to get a few more clicks on that article. It is a bit petty, but he got the revenge he deserved in the end, which was good. So yeah, that's all for today's video. Thank you everyone for watching. Please make sure you like, comment, subscribe, click the bell icon and share with everyone you know. Yep, that's right, everyone. Because the last video kind of didn't do well, so please check out my other videos too if you want to. I've got plenty on my channel, about 140 I think. So yep, thank you for watching again, and I'll see you next video. Bye.